Before we start, just a quick reminder. The views and content shared on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and are not a substitute for professional advice. Please check the full disclaimer in the show notes for more information.
Welcome to Self-Centered, the podcast that's all about you. We're your hosts.
I'm Allie, a therapist and life coach.
And I'm Katie, a fitness coach and personal trainer. We know what it's like to feel burnt out, taken for granted, and like your life revolves around everyone but yourself.
By learning to trust yourself, prioritize your needs, and set healthy boundaries, we help you break free from guilt, overfunctioning, and toxic patterns that keep you stuck in relationships and a life that doesn't truly serve you.
Join us each week as we dive into the tools, stories, and mindset shifts you need to create a life that centers you.
Because being self-centered isn't selfish, it's essential. Hi, everyone. Welcome to whatever day it is. We're so glad that you're here. Today, we are going to do a selfie submitted question, which is so exciting. So as you know, we're on Instagram. We also have email, and now we're on TikTok, thanks to Katie. So you can find us on Instagram or TikTok at selfcentered.pod. And our email is selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com. So send us your selfie submissions. So we have a question that we're going to answer and talk about. And in a second, Katie will read what that question is. However, we're going to tell you about the rest of the episode. So after we answer that question, we talk about it. Katie also came up with some common issues that people have with us when we decide to become more self-centered, and they have a tough time with that. So we're going to talk about what are those things that they say. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how do you support someone that you're in a relationship, whether that's romantic, platonic, family, whatever, while staying in your seat, and how do you communicate that, especially when your needs conflict.
That's great. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Katie's having a brain moment, which, as you all know, I have those too, and she jumps in for me. So Katie actually came up with the idea for this episode and all that. I'm just really repeating back what she told me just because she's having a brain moment. So
I appreciate you.
I'm going to give it, but I want you to have the, what's it called? I want you to get the points for all the ideas for the episode because it was good.
Great.
So do you want to read so it was an Instagram message that we
Yes. So we received an Instagram message. The context that we can give is our selfie submission was from a mom. So this mom, of course, has family members that depend on her and has probably had a life where she's the resource. So it is tough to stay in your seat when you've been someone's lifeline, right?
So here is the question. Sometime can you address, quote, "You're making it all about you"? Well, it's not all about me, but if you're asking me to help you, or we are in a relationship, partner, kids, family, friend, work, whatever, and your situation requires something of me, it's a little about me. I may be willing to do it and gladly, but letting you know something else on my plate has to give, or trying to figure out a way it has less impact on my usual stuff isn't selfish. Thanks. Thank you, selfie. So this is a great question because this impacts more than this selfie impacts.
Yeah.
And I've heard this. This has been said to me before. Has it been said to you?
Yeah, no, definitely it has. Mm-hmm. And I think for framing, it was probably that these two people were in a conversation and person A needed something from our mom friend. And the mom friend said, yeah, I want to help you. And this is how it impacts me. So let me figure out how to not make the impact so big so I don't have to get out of my seat. Mm-hmm. And then it sounds like the rebuttal from this person was, you're making it all about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was thinking about it and it doesn't matter how it was actually, right? Because these are all different ways that this can show up. But that is one way it can show up in a friendship. It has happened before for me in a romantic partnership where they say that they need me to do something, ask me to do something for them, or it's just like expected and it's become kind of normalized that I do this thing for them. But for whatever reason, that is too much on my plate or interferes with something else. And so I will go to them and say, hey, I can do this thing for you, but in order to do that, can you do this? And then the response is, you're making it all about you instead of just doing it.
Yeah.
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 Why can't I just ask you to do something and you just do it? Why does it have to be a conversation?
Yeah.
I got thoughts about that. We got thoughts about that. So I really want to focus on that it isn't selfish and you're not making it all about you. So you have limits. That's true. That's
Hmm.
There's no way around that. We can deny it, but then we're denying it, right? Like it's still a truth. And so acknowledging your capacity allows you to show up for others without overextending yourself. And that helps keep relationships sustainable and balanced. Also, taking care of yourself helps you maintain your energy and your mental clarity so that you can actually be effective in your helping, instead of running around stressed out, and now you're harmed. And so you're now just treading water. This can get really bad really fast if you don't recognize how this will impact you and figure it out. The other piece, too, is that when we stay passive, what we are implicitly saying with our behavior is, you matter, I don't matter. So by responding in that situation, by not bringing up, oh, here's how it's going to impact me, can we figure this out? That would be passive, right? Because you're
Yeah.
not bringing it up and you're just taking it on. The implicit message there is, okay, well, I'll take the hit because I don't matter. They matter. So I'll do these things that are on my plate and take what's on their plate that they ask me for help with. And when we stay passive in relationships, it leads to resentment.
Hmm.
And that isn't good for our relationships. I mean, for me, I remember saying to someone that I was with in the past, a romantic partner, listen, if this pattern of me doing so much and you really not, or you not, showing up for me continues, it's going to build resentment. And that's not something that I want. I know, though, that after that continues for a long enough time, I'm not going to be sexually attracted to you anymore. And
Yeah.
then it happened. And that was such a bummer. And then I had to end things with them because I wasn't interested in them anymore. And it was so frustrating because it was like, you could have avoided this. At least in that situation, I was assertive, though. At least I was communicating so they could decide what their behavior is. But if you stay passive and you don't bring up, hey, there's all this stuff on my plate, and I would love to do this for you, but in order to have the capacity to do that, this thing has to give. Can you help me with that? Or can we shift whatever? Then that gives the other person an opportunity to have a relationship where you can find a mutually beneficial solution and you can collaborate and you can feel like you're on a team and it isn't just you taking one for the team over and over again. And then guess what? It's no longer a team if you keep taking one for the team. Now you're just
Yeah.
the sacrificial lamb. And healthy relationships involve mutual respect for each person's needs and circumstances, right? Like healthy relationships are, I matter too because we both matter. So no, you're not making it all about you. You're just saying I matter too. And relationships thrive through equality and being seen and respected. And part of being seen and respected is, hey, I have a limited capacity. So we got to make this work somehow. It
Yeah.
also prevents an imbalance of functioning too, right? Because we've talked about how accidentally we selfies before we become selfies, we can overfunction
Hmm.
and then other people become dependent on us.
And I
So,
think that's really, what's the word? I think if you were to make an avatar of like what our typical listener is, like the typical selfie, I think it is the person who is the self-sacrificial lamb and the
mhm,
overfunctioner
mhm,
because they care so much.
mhm,
And I imagine that's a really big part of making sure that when you have these conversations with someone where they're coming back and they're saying, you're being so selfish, but you're recognizing that no, you're actually trying to take care of yourself and take care of the other person within your reasonable limits, communicating that it's not that you're trying to leave the person in harm or in, need.
Right.
It's that you do love and care about the person.
Mhm.
And in order to continue having a healthy relationship for the betterment of both of you, you have to take care of yourself and know what your limits are, that you can't continually overfunction and
Right.
self-sacrifice, because exactly what you said, right? It can build resentment. And having that like candid conversation of not just because I think that there's a difference between us, especially if you have a habit of being passive,
Mhm.
us knowing these things and us having the conversation with someone that we care about that, hey, I have done XYZ before, or I've been in a habit of like being the yes man and just saying, yeah, I'll take that on, I'll take that on, I'll take that on. And now I'm seeing that it's causing harm to myself and it's making me struggle in our relationship. And I don't want to struggle in our relationship. I actually want to enjoy our relationship. And because I care about us and myself, I have to do this. I have to prioritize and I have to state my needs as well,
Right.
even when we're both in need.
Yep. Yeah, which I think relates to the next piece that we're going to talk about. But before I segue into that, is there anything else? I think we kind of covered it. Well, I think actually the person, the selfie who asked this will benefit from our conversation about the next piece too.
Yeah,
Because
for
it's going
sure.
to be about, because what I was thinking is, okay, well, now on to communicating that. But I think we're going
Exactly. I
to.
think, and I do think that's a really big part of it is how do you communicate that in that moment? How do you, because I envision, and maybe this is just my bias with the experiences that I've had when I'm told, oh, you're being so selfish about this, or, why is it always about you? You're making it all about you. Usually the person that's asking for a need from me and then makes that rebuttal is also someone who is stressed
Yeah, for
and
sure.
who has a lot of emotion behind their experience. And I can imagine, now this might be me putting myself in their chair just a little bit too much, but it is a context that I think is important to understand, like, how do I approach this conversation? I can imagine that that person, when it's happened, me then saying all the things that I'm thinking of that I need to address, like, oh, okay, well, I have to move this appointment to make that happen. I really don't think I can move that appointment because I won't be able to see, maybe it's my doctor for the next 6 months, whatever, the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That would probably stress them out more.
Hmm.
And it would intensify the conversation and make that exchange out of proportion of what the feelings of the situation actually are.
Hmm.
And so for me, taking it back a step and then validating that person's stress, like, oh, yeah, I can absolutely see how this is so stressful for you. I can see why you have this need. And I can see the benefit that would come from having this need resolved.
Hmm. Yeah, the validation piece. Yeah, for sure.
I think that validation piece can really soften the
Mhm.
experience because then that identifies to the person you're talking with, oh, yeah, they're being heard.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I have the people who have said this to me were very stressed, but they were denying that they were stressed to themselves because
Oh,
it was
okay.
too vulnerable for them to acknowledge that about themselves because I think that they had an implicit belief that being stressed eh, is weak. And
Yeah.
so I think if I had responded by emotionally validating them and say it makes sense that you're stressed, I think that would make them more stressed because they'd be like they're invested in even to themselves not knowing that they're stressed. So
Okay. Yeah.
because being overwhelmed to them they saw that as a weakness. And so they were really psychologically invested in instead of taking responsibility for or even being aware of, oh, I'm really stressed and that's what's going on. There wasn't that self awareness because, again, there was like a psychological defense against being aware of that. And so if I had said, oh my gosh, it makes sense that you're stressed, it would be like, I'm not stressed. I'm just saying, don't be so selfish.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that goes to like, we're going to talk about your weaknesses and your issues because I'm too, you know what I mean? And so, in those cases, I mean, like, obviously, in the long run, people like that are not easy to be in relationships with, and they need to work on that stuff. in the long run for the relationship to be successful as a whole. However, in the moment, I would probably ask some questions because I'm also not going to be complicit in allowing them to not be self-aware. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm not going to walk on eggshells just to protect you, but I think I would just clock that about them. And then I would ask them questions that might get them to kind of see what's going on. So it would be like, you're making it all about you. I think I would be like, oh, I don't see it that way. I see it as I really want to help you and I want to contribute to our relationship in this way or help take this off your plate. And I have stuff on my plate. So I'm figuring out how to make it work for both of us. Tell me, is this making you feel like I don't care about you? Or like, so I think I would go into being more curious with a person like that. And
Yeah.
it might then get to the place where then they become aware of that. And then it would be what your response is. So I think it really depends on the person. But I think being curious with anyone, especially in a situation where someone is clearly not thinking straight,
Yeah.
or like accusing you of things. Because I think a lot of people who are really emotional don't seem emotional at all because they're actually managing being overly emotional by being overly rational. So whether the person is clearly emotionally overwhelmed or they're not and they seem calm, cool, and collected, but they're just being kind of like shitty towards you and blaming shit on you. Either way, I think it is good to just keep in mind you can emotionally validate. And if they push back on that and they're like, oh no, I'm fine. No big deal here. I'm just saying that don't make it all about you. And then they double down on that. You can just be curious and say, hey, help me understand because here's how I see it. And then you can kind of turn the tables on them and be like, how do you see it? Like, walk me through so that we can get on the same page.
And that's especially you bringing that up. If you're faced with someone that's saying, you're making this all about you, being curious and asking them what they're
Yeah,
thinking and
that's a good
feeling,
point. Yeah.
yeah, will actually help address them feeling like
Yeah.
you're making it all about you when you're not. You're just you're staying in your seat. But it will actually help that because
It
then they get to
should.
talk about what they're
It should. It should help that. Yeah. And if it doesn't, if emotional validation and then being curious about them and how they're feeling, which is in practice making it about them in that moment when you're being curious about them, if those things don't quote unquote work, meaning you can't get on the same page or they don't understand you, just know that you've done your due diligence and they don't need to understand you. And
yeah.
they can have the perception of you that they have. You can go listen to episode 10, I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, no, no, no. Episode 9. Episode 9 was about dealing with other people misunderstanding you or thinking that you're selfish or whatever to help you just kind of accept that I did what I could to get on the same page with them and it's just not going to happen and they're going to see me this way and can't really change that. But I did what I
Yeah.
could. And so, what matters again, and this is something that we talk about in episode 9, what matters more than what they think of you is what you think of you.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
true.
remember, I matter too, AKA you matter too, because we both matter.
Hmm.
And so, if you realize through trying to emotionally validate, be curious, get on the same page, and they're still seeing you as selfish and making it all about you, just know that if the only way for them to see you as not making it all about you is to make it all about them by abandoning yourself, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
That's why what you think of you matters the most. And so
Yeah.
you do your due diligence of trying to get on the same page, trying to collaborate, trying to be a team, emotionally validating. And if you just can't get on the same page and they still see you as selfish, then they see you as selfish. Because what you're not going to do in order to get them to stop seeing you as selfish is abandon yourself. No, you are selfie. You're
Yes.
full of yourself in the best way. You are self centered in the best way.
And the people who are meant to be in your life, they love all of you.
Yeah.
So you being full of yourself, honestly, great thing.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. It's always helpful to me to think about what would this interaction look like? What would this relationship look like? What might this person be saying or how would they be behaving toward me if they were collaborative, if they were assuming best intentions, if they believed that we both matter and I matter too, if
Hmm.
they could see and validate what's on my plate, if they were the type of person who wanted to make sure that our relationship was balanced. And if this is a co-parenting relationship where you're not with that person romantically anymore, but you have to co-parent, it's kind of just like business. Be respectful, don't get too deep, don't get into the weeds.
Yeah.
So we've kind of moved into the
Hmm.
complaints that we've heard from people when we've become more self-centered, when other people have become more self-centered. So I've heard, these things being said to my clients when they become more self-centered. Which one do you want to talk about next?
So we definitely covered that you're making this all about you. I think the next one really highlights the arc that happens too as you're becoming more self-centered, is that people will come to you and be like, but you used to be okay with this. You
Yeah.
used to do this all the time.
You've changed.
Yes, you've changed. And how do you address that? Like, how do
I
you
thank you
stay?
so much for recognizing all of the work that I've been doing. I really appreciate that. I'm just kidding. Although that's what you should be thinking in your head. In your
Yep.
head, when you hear this, you should be thinking like, yeah, celebrate. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's a really good reframing moment, though. Like, really do pause and think about that because when someone says, but you've changed, normally, like my heart normally would immediately drop and be like, oh shit, I'm not authentic. I'm not in congruent with their image of me of what has always been, which, and that's not the case. But knowing that, oh, you've changed, guess what? You're working on trying to change.
yeah, exactly.
You're succeeding.
Yeah, and you've changed. Obviously, there's a negative connotation with that when people say that, or you used to do this, or you used to do that. And it's like, it was better for me when you were the way you were before, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's about because it depends on each person, right? So for some people who say you've changed or you used to do X, it might be like, oh, I feel like we spent more time together and I miss you, you know?
Yeah.
And so what happened? Like, can we talk about it? I'm taking it kind of personal. And they might not say that, right? And it's also not your responsibility to read their mind. But I do think that you can start again by just being curious of like, tell me more about that. Like, in what ways have I changed and like how is it impacting you? Help me understand how the way I've changed, or how whatever they say that means. Why is it important? Because it's clearly important and what's important to you is important to me. Get them to go into details so that you can actually understand where they're coming from. So is it a like, I just miss you and do you not care about me anymore? And it's like, oh no, it's just I'm trying to make sure that I prioritize these things that really fill me up and really matter to me. And you matter to me too. However, before when we were spending so much time together, it's because I wasn't doing XYZ hobby that really fills me up. And I realized how important that is. And so I'm really making sure that I do that. And then in the extra time that I have, I love hanging out with you. So it's about me. Really, it isn't about you. But that's a very different thing than, oh, well, when I used to ask you to do this, you said yes, and now you're saying no. And it's like, oh yeah. And again, emotional validation. Yeah, that's got to be hard because I used to do that and now I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm sure that it's really hard when things change. When people say you've changed, it can feel like, oh, it's a problem that I've changed. I mean, they're basically implying that it's a problem that you've changed. So it can feel like, oh, I need to solve that. And again, the selfless to selfie journey, it starts with abandoning yourself and it starts with doing all these things for other people. So it makes sense that it can be hard for people when you're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so you probably started by problem solving for other people. And now
Yeah.
you're going to emotionally validate, but you're not going to problem solve. Oh, yeah, it probably is really hard that I don't do that anymore. Bummer.
Yeah.
So, okay, next.
So the next rebuttal that we often hear, why does what you want or need matter more than what I want or need? And I feel, and it's not going to be said like that.
Yeah, how does it get said?
I would say, but I'm hurting. Why is, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm the one in distress.
I'm the victim, drama triangle. You need
Yeah.
to rescue me.
Hmm.
And if you
Hmm.
don't rescue me when you have more power because you're not the victim, then it must be that your needs matter more than mine.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not that my needs matter than your needs. It's just that I'm only responsible for meeting mine.
Yeah.
So if I'm able and I want to, I'll help you. But if not, I'm not gonna. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it hurts. I think that's another kind of like hard reality or hard truth that we need to accept is that again, we don't have infinite capacity. We can't infinitely give. If I could choose a superpower, that's what it would be because it does hurt my heart that I mean, the whole state of the world hurts my heart, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that I have to have these mental boundaries with myself, focus on what you can do. And of course, it's okay if you want to and you can to help people and support them. But if you can't, you can't. And what it means to not be able to is that it would not only that it might harm you, but it could also be it just takes away from you feeling good, right? So
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be, well, I could do this. I'm just going to be exhausted and and it's like, okay, well then no. Wellness is really, really important. Happiness is really, really important. As time goes on, I really just think it's a need, it's a resource. We have to have it.
Hmm.
And so if you can't go do something for them or even just emotionally be there for them because instead you need to have fun that day or that night because you need to fill yourself up with joy, then you do that. And that's not selfish. That's actually a buffer for stress. That's you replenishing your battery
Yeah.
and your happiness and your creativity. And we give from overflow.
Hmm.
Okay, so yes, you could be at 95% battery, and if you want to go help them, whatever. But like, if you're at 95% battery and you're like, no, I really need to be topped off to 100, so I'm gonna say no. If you're at
Yeah.
105, then you have excess and you can give that. And
Hmm.
even if you're at 105 and you don't want to give the excess because you're like, you know what, I've been depleted for a while, I just need to chill in excess for a while, you do that.
Yeah.
So you really you're responsible for you. You're responsible for your needs and taking care of you. And that also means building resilience for the future. And that might mean that you can't help. And often too, so sometimes people will be asking us to meet their needs and it's because they really do need help. Sometimes people ask for help for things that they can be doing that they're just not taking responsibility for and they're just in this victim mindset. And especially in that case, you helping them is actually enabling them, which
Hmm.
in the long run isn't good for them either, even if
Right.
they don't have that perspective. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Is there a way, or maybe there's not, but is there a way, let's say this is someone that you do normally have a really good relationship with, like your kid or something, like this is your child that you're having, maybe your adult child that you're having this conversation with. And I think why that brings up is like, I'm thinking of the mom relationship. It's like, yeah, the kid was dependent on the mom for so long because it's a kid, right? And then you do start weaning them off. And now it's like, oh shit, I have to be an adult. The kid has to become an adult and has to take responsibility for certain things, but that's maybe a novel concept for
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
Is there a way to have that conversation with them that, like, hey, it's time for a life perspective understanding
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it would be like, listen, I love you so much and I want what's best for you. And my job as a parent is to help you not need me.
yeah,
And that's what we need to move toward. So maybe we don't go from 100% support, meaning like I'm just thinking about like financial support or
oh,
something.
yeah, yeah,
And then, for example, just because it's an easy, concrete example, and it's like, it's one of those. I have to do what's best for you. And that means moving back and pulling back in terms of my support for you. And so I'm going to do that maybe little by little over time. Or maybe we've already had this conversation 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
now you're in the place where, yeah, I'm not financially supporting you at all anymore. And you just ran up your credit card bill and now you're in a crappy spot. Well, this is really uncomfortable. I get that. It's scary. It's stressful. It's really good that you're stressed about this because it shows that you recognize that having this debt isn't healthy and not good for you. And it doesn't make sense for me to pay that off because this is something that you created and you can figure it out. And I
Yeah.
can support you to figure it out. I can support you to make a plan to pay it off. I can answer questions. I can educate you about this. If I don't know, everything about this and maybe I need to be educated on it, we can watch YouTube videos on it together or whatever. So I'll support you with figuring that out, but I'm not going to just pay it off for you because it just doesn't make sense. And that's not
Yeah.
because I don't care about you. That's because I do care about you. Because actually, the easiest thing for me to do would be to pay it off. And
Hmm.
instead, I'm sitting here having this hard conversation with you because I need to teach you to do this on your own
Yeah.
and not be in this situation. Because if I pay it off, you're going to probably do it again.
Yeah. And so that kind of circles me down to one of the questions that we wanted to frame, which was what does it mean regarding the person that you're interacting with when you're having these conflicts come up? And specifically, like in that example where the child maybe is expecting their parent to bail
Hmm.
them out, or where maybe your partner or your friend believes that you're being selfish for having boundaries. And I think so much of it is like we're just in different parts of our journey.
Hmm.
And if it's someone that you have capacity to do this, that's, this is part of staying in your seat, right? But if it's someone that like, yeah, I love and care about this relationship and I do believe that they have the capacity to get there and it's not going to overextend me to bring this up, like having that conversation about, hey, the dynamics of our relationship are changing, or this is kind of a blind spot to expect me to solve your problem,
Hmm.
whatever that is.
Hmm.
This is what is reasonable for us to come together on and how to support each other.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
is what I can do,
Hmm.
or this is what I can't do. And kind of coaching them up in that if it makes sense for you and your
Right.
relationship.
Yeah, yeah, which it would make sense in a parent-child relationship, even if the child is an adult. Yeah, I think what we've said that we can say to ourselves, we can also say to other people it makes sense that you have this blind spot
Hmm.
because I have taken care of you for so long and I love you so much and would do anything for you. And what's really true is that now we're moving into this different phase of your life, or we are in this different phase. And so the dynamics have shifted. And so that means that this piece is on you now. I don't take care of this piece anymore. And like I said,
Yeah.
support you to get there, but I'm not a safety net for that. You're the safety net for that.
Hmm.
And if you feel scared about that, I'm here for you to talk through that. But yeah, I'm not going to be doing XYZ anymore. And so
Yeah.
what does it mean about the other person when they push back against these boundaries? I agree with you. They're in a different part of their journey, or it could just be a misunderstanding, but there's something that's not you're not on the same page. We know that
Right.
for sure. We could say that for every situation where they're pushing back on your boundaries, you're not on the same page. You might not be on the same page because you're in different parts of your journey in terms of personal maturity, self-awareness, evolution of consciousness, all of that kind of stuff. Or you might not be on the same page just because it's a misunderstanding and you just need to clear it up. That's why I think being curious is so helpful because you need to figure out what's actually going on and what's underneath what they're saying and what they're doing in order to be able to address it.
I agree.
Okay. There were just a couple other things that I was thinking of is that I feel like you're not hearing or understanding me.
Oh, yeah. I have heard it verbatim that way, that I feel like you're not understanding me, or I feel like I'm not being heard. That's how I've heard it verbatim.
And what do you think the function of that behavior was?
I believe the underlying meaning was, you don't agree with me and I don't like that. I have a personal example. I'll try to make it simple. This happened with a partner many moons ago. So the very basic level of the situation, I was with a partner that we had different views on finances. And this partner had an opportunity to get something that they have wanted forever. And at the time, I was financially supporting them in some things. And for them to get that thing, although I wanted them to have that thing, my view was that's not a good financial decision. Right. Their view was it is a good financial decision because the opportunity will not come up again. So we disagreed on this thing. And when we disagreed on it, that partner said, well, I don't feel like you're hearing me. I don't feel like you're supporting me. I don't feel like you want for me to be happy. I don't feel like I'm being heard in this moment, that this is a good decision. I said, okay, I hear you. I do want you to have the thing, but it is true that I don't have the same value as you in terms of finances. And I asked, being curious,
values around the finances. Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked, I was like, what would it look like for you, for me to disagree with you and support you in this decision?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because they did agree that it was okay for me to disagree.
Yeah.
They said that because they understood that I'm autonomous, right? And that they're autonomous, and that we can disagree on something and still support each other. And so I asked, what would that look like? And they paused and they were like, they didn't know. And I said, what it looks like is this moment. I'm going to disagree with the decision that you're about to make. I still love and support you, but understand that this does create a consequence in our relationship of whether that causes me to feel hurt, or whether we need restitution, or whatever the situation is, or it's just a shitty situation. And I will disagree. I can support you and agree that you want the thing and I want you to have the thing, but I don't have to be encouraging you to get the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I said that, and when I asked, well, what does that look like? Then they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. In healthy relationships, no matter what the relationship is, whether a partner or a child or a family member or a friend, I think you can have those conversations of being curious and also asking, well, what does the outcome look like for you, for both of us? What would you envision the outcome to look like for both of us to be happy and in our seat in this situation? And if it's unreasonable, and you're with a healthy individual that you're having this conversation with, I think you can actually get them to that point of seeing that it's unreasonable, because you're both intelligent people.
I think so much.
And if you can't, then that's a sign that you're not on the same page.
For sure. You might not be compatible. You might make bigger choices in your relationship in that case. But so much of what we talked about today is really about staying in your seat regardless, caring more about what you think than what other people think about you, because the way that you see you is what matters most. Right? You are 100% responsible for your needs. You're 100% responsible for taking care of what's on your plate, whatever your responsibilities are. You have your way of doing that, and other people can have their way of doing that. But just because other people have different perspectives does not mean that you have to agree with that, or that you have to leave your seat for that.
Yeah. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make either person a bad person.
Right. Often it's just recognizing, okay, we have different perspectives, whatever. But I matter too. We both matter. I'm responsible for me. I can be curious. I can emotionally validate, but I'm not leaving my seat.
Yeah.
Bam. I think we're done.
As a reminder, if you have a selfie situation that you would like us to break down, to go over, to talk about some general theory or topics, or share our own personal experience on,
or give you advice or ideas.
Yeah. We're here. We're ready. selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com. selfcentered.pod on Instagram and TikTok.
All right. Well, stay self-centered, y'all. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram at selfcentered.pod, or connect with us at selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com.
Stay self-centered, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.